Since we're making this to honor Joe in memory of his 10th anniversary of his passing, I wanted to share this with his family, because right before he passed away, he was being honored for Man of the Year by one of the many organizations that have done it for him. And the man that was going to introduce him is none other than the United States Senator Bob Menendez. Imagine that, having a U.S. Senator introduce you. Anyway, so I had written this to give to Senator Menendez so that he could have a little background on Joe. So I'm just going to read it to you. When many of us think of Joe Supor, what comes to mind is the image of a man almost larger than life. After all, almost everything about him is big. He's the owner of a big trucking and rigging company that has some of the largest trucks, trailers, and cranes that carry the heaviest loads, cranes that can lift the heaviest weights, and warehouses so large you can barely see from one end to the other. For over 40 years, the Supor name has been associated with successfully moving many of the largest and most difficult loads in the metropolitan area, as well as creating some of the greatest traffic jams. No, I'm only kidding. Working for some of the largest corporations and government agencies such as ExxonMobil, Public Services, Con Edison, and the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey on projects that were highly visible to the public have only increased Joe's large image. Delivering loads to the original World Trade Center, installing huge cracking towers at the Conoco refineries, moving dozens of monstrous transformers for public service and Con Ed, and being part of the recovery team at the airports when disasters have occurred have all added to the Supor legend. For heaven's sake, he even has a street named after him in Harrison for all the years of service he provided. So it's very easy to get caught up in all the success and forget about the humble beginnings in which it all started. But it's in these humble roots that we learn so much about the character of the man we're here to honor. For anyone who knows him at all sees very quickly that Joe has never forgotten where he came from. And in spite of all the tremendous success he has achieved, he remains the same humble man from Union City he always was. His ability to relate to the average person, identify with their problems, and be willing to use his resources to help them overcome whatever obstacles life has thrown their way has endeared Joe to much of his family, friends, and employees. There is a fierce loyalty to him among all those that have been touched by his generosity and sincere caring. Speaking of dedication and loyalty, we would be remiss if we did not honor along with him tonight his wife and lifelong partner, Roseanne, whose devotion to him enabled Joe to build the empire that exists today. Throughout the years, the good times, the bad times, the financially hard times, she was the solid rock of support behind Joe's every step of the way, raising their two lovely children and making their home a place of comfort for him, away from the wars of the business. You will not find two more dedicated children to their father than Julianne and Joe Jr., who truly appreciate the sacrifices their father made to give them a better life and enjoy just a tremendous relationship with him. So tonight we honor a man who really has experienced the American dream, coming from small beginnings and through hard work and countless personal sacrifices, has achieved a level of success that he could never have even foreseen himself. It has been written that a man makes a living out of what he gets, but he makes a life out of what he gives. Joe's life is so big because his heart is even bigger.
The old man had something about him. He would come to you and ask you to do something. He would never tell you to do something.
He always asked for a favor, you know. Let's see, when you have a chance, do me a favor.
You felt like you were just a coworker. He wasn't your boss. He would never boss anybody around.
Same thing like your son, like father, like son. Treat everything like family. And he even told me, when you work for me, you work for life.
The old man says, just stick with me, kid. We'll get you places. And every day, still to this day, I learned something new.
He was honest, and honest.
I first met Mr. Supor Jr. When I was 14 years old. I was looking for a summer job, and I met the mayor and Mr. Supor in the mayor's office, and he said, can you give this guy a job? And Mr. Super said, sure, let him paint the white lines in the town. And then after about a month, came back to the mayor's office, and I said, okay, I'm done with the white lines. And Mr. Super says, it was supposed to take you all summer. I said, okay. So he says, go back to economy and get some yellow paint and go paint the yellow.
Never saw a man who was really so not only devoted to his business, but his care and concern and love for his family was just always evident, and his willingness to help everybody that he knew. If they had problems, Joe would be the first guy that would be there, and the man would give you the shirt off his back. He was the most generous person I've ever known in my life, and that's such a great quality that I remember him for. He was afraid of nothing. I mean, he had no fear of jobs, and he was the best guy I ever saw, walking into place and telling you exactly how much it's going to cost to do what they asked him to do without hardly putting anything on pencil and paper or anything else. It was just awesome to watch.
If he took you under his wing and he loved you as one of his own, there wasn't nothing he didn't do for you. And he took me in when I came from Texas. That's how I wound up here. And I grew up with his nephew, Steve. And I came up here, was just supposed to be for the summer, and I was supposed to leave. And him and Joey called me in and asked me if I wanted to finish high school and continue to work for them, which I did. And had Duke take me down to the Harrison High School, introduced me as his nephew, and from that day forward, I worked for the man. He was a very, very phenomenal man.
I'm in the bank cashing my unemployment check, and he comes in the bank. He knew me through, I used to coach his football team, the little kids, and he said, what are you doing in here? I says, I'm laid off, Joe. He says, well, I got work for you. You want to come work? You can work for me. So this was 1974. We were moving some big machines in some paper plant. And I had to back up this trailer up the hill. And when we got it done there, we started unchaining it. And one of the workers, he let go of the pipe and whacked me across the nose with it. The next thing I know, I wake up in the hospital. But Joe was there and came to my house, told my wife. And that's the kind of guy he was. He was a very helpful guy. And he helped me out very much. As a matter of fact, Joe was the one that gave me my down payment for my house. And the way I paid him off was I worked every Saturday and Sunday that he wanted me to. No questions asked. And that's how I got my first house.
I was brought on, we were doing the offices, doing renovations on the office, and he came up to me and asked me to come on board. And this was maybe the fourth time I met him. As soon as you meet the guy, you fall in love with him, you know?
That's what I could say.
People are attracted to him. When he walked in the room, heads turned.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He just had that about him, man.
It's true.
You know?
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And if you went in there and said
Absolutely.
something to him or whatever you needed or whatever it was, and he stuck his hand out and shook your hand, it was done.
It was guaranteed.
Yeah, you ain't got to worry about it.
That was a guarantee.
You ain't got to worry.
That was his
That's what
Union City contract.
Yep.
Handshake.
Yep.
Right.
I started working for Joe in 1988. Are you serious? And I said, yeah, I'm serious. I wouldn't mind working for you. And he said, well, come to the river. We went in the back. He said, I do all my negotiating out by the river. So we went out in the river, we cut a deal, and I started working for him. He was tenacious, that's for sure. He feared doing nothing. He could bullshit you, and you'd want to kiss him. I don't think they're going to put that in the thing. Man, I truly admired the man because I think he cared about the people that worked for him. He had a big heart, that's for sure. He went out of his way to help a lot of people. I truly admired his big heart. He was willing to give of himself. I will tell you this, and the rest of them will confirm it. When the red jacket went on, you ran away. You went and hid. It was because something scary was coming. Like I said, he would take on any challenge, and he would make you do your best to accomplish whatever it was he was getting us into. Or he asked me if I knew where Red Hook Terminal was in Brooklyn. And he said there was a Mack truck over there, an R model Mack truck. He gave me a description. He sent me over there and he says, if you can't find the key, can you start it? And I said, yeah, I can get it started. And I found the truck. I got it started. I called him up. I said, I had it running. What do you want me to do? And he said, so just bring it back to the yard. So I drove this truck back to the yard. And when I got back, he basically said, and I said, what do you want me to do with it? And he said, well, that guy owed me money. I just wanted this truck until he paid me the money. So basically, he sent me out to steal a truck in New York City. And that was the first time I ever did that.
I started work in 1978 and I retired in 2014. To know Joe, you love Joe, and it made you want to come to work in the morning. Even on your bad days that you goofed up, which we all did a lot of times, you just really felt that you could come back and that Joe would just take it and everything would be okay and you just move on to the next job. Every job was a different challenge. It's just like the rest of us that are here. Most of us came and we didn't know. We were just truck drivers, but we didn't know how the challenges of moving wide loads, heavy loads. You just learned as you went along, and he was right there, him and Joey were right there with you all the way to get you through it. Like, you always felt a little more secure if you knew that he was coming or you knew he was going to be on the job. And he always made you feel safe. Like you were just as important as anybody else. So, that's what kept me just wanting to come to work in the morning. It just, every day was just get up and go. That's what I liked about it. And it always was that way.
You'll remember this too. We had a fellow wandered in over when the yard was in Harrison. There were a lot of traffic. People would wander in off the streets. Some of them came across the bridge from Newark and wandering. There was a fellow wandering around the yard one day, came back by the garage and goes, hey, you guys looking to hire anybody? I don't know, go to the office. Next thing we know, Joe's Cadillac is missing.
Lincoln.
Oh, it was a Lincoln. So, I wasn't in the office, but Joe then proceeded to call the guy on the phone. That was in the car, and the guy answered him. And he made arrangements to meet him in Newark and exchange the car.
Get his car back.
The car back too. And the car came back.
Anyway, that's our story about.
Yeah, there's a whole. It could go on and on for days. It could seriously.
Between all of us here, we got over 100 years. Still pretty good.
There were a lot of good stories. He was a good man to work for.
Great man.
Great man to work for.
Yes, he was.
You always whatever happened, you knew that he always had your back.
And he always used to tell me, if you can count 5 friends on your hand, then you're a very blessed man. And I got 4 of them right here in this room with me now. And he's right. If you don't got family and friends, or your health, you got nothing.